My cousin said I stole her baby, then tried to break my door down. The night my drunk cousin tried to kick in my nursery door while I was 8 months pregnant was the first time I really believed she might hurt me. It was just after 1 a.m., I remember, because I just rolled over to check my phone after the baby shifted and jammed a tiny foot into my ribs. I was lying in my childhood bedroom at my parents' house, lights off, Netflix paused on my laptop, half asleep. Then the doorknob rattled. At first it was subtle, like someone trying not to wake me. The knob turned, hit the lock, turned again. I froze. We always locked my door at night now, on my dad's insistence. Just in case, he'd said. Open the door, a voice hissed. Casey. Her words were slurred but sharp. Open the door, you selfish little The rest hit the wood instead of me. I slid my hand under my pillow for my phone, my heart pounding. The baby flipped again, sensing my panic. I know you're in there, she said louder now. You think you can just ruin my life and then hide? You think you can just steal my baby and my name and everything and just sleep? My thumb was shaking as I unlocked my phone and hit record on the camera, pointing it at the door. The cheap white paint glowed in the light from the hallway, shadows jerking across it as she jiggled the handle. Casey, go to bed, I called, trying to sound calm. You're drunk. The knob slammed again, harder. Then the first kick. The whole door shuddered, and my headboard thumped the wall. The baby jerked, and my hand went straight to my stomach. Wake up, princess, she yelled. Come out and tell everyone how perfect you are, how you always win, daddy's favorite, mommy's little victim. Open the door, you stupid little... Another kick. I flinched and kept my phone steady. My voice came out thinner than I wanted. I'm recording this, Casey. Stop or I'm calling the cops. She laughed, a wet, ugly sound. You're gonna call the cops on family? On the girl whose life you ruined? You already took my baby, now you want to put me in jail? You think you're some kind of saint because you let a loser knock you up? Kick. The frame groaned. I texted the video to my dad with shaking fingers. She's at my door, please. For a second, I wondered if he'd see it. He and my mom slept with their phones on silent. I pictured my dad, who hadn't had a drink in 15 years, breathing deep, trying not to explode. I pictured my mom, small and tired, caught in the middle like always. The next kick actually cracked something. This sharp splintering sound that made my skin go cold. I slid off the bed, half crouched, putting my body between the door and the crib we'd set up in the corner. The nightlight cast a little pool of blue over the tiny folded onesies and the empty space where my daughter would sleep. You're not getting away with this, Casey snarled. You think you can just pop out some mixed baby and suddenly you're better than everyone. Little black sheep thinks she's special now? That one dug under my skin. I'd heard versions of it my whole life, but there was something about hearing it aimed at my unborn child that made my stomach twist. Casey, I swear to God, if you don't step away from that door right now... My dad's voice cut through everything, exploding up the stairs. Heavy footsteps pounded down the hall. The hallway light shifted as his shadow filled the gap under my door. What the hell do you think you're doing? He roared. The banging stopped. For a heartbeat, there was just my ragged breathing and the blood rushing in my ears. Did you see what she sent? Casey's voice pitched up fast, turning from venom to wounded in a blink. She's recording me. Get away from the door, my dad said, low and deadly. Now. My mom's softer voice floated in behind him, anxious and pleading. Girls, please. She's pregnant. This has to stop. I stayed where I was on the floor, back pressed against my bed, one hand around my belly, phone still clutched in the other, recording the shadows under the door and thinking, how did it get this bad? If you ask Casey, it started with a baby name. A few weeks before the door incident, we'd been sitting in my parents' living room, arguing over centerpieces and guest lists, like any normal baby shower planning session. My mom had her notebook out, glasses sliding down her nose. So, we've got the date set for August. We'll do it here in the backyard. I can make lumpia and the pancit your Lola used to. I don't know why we're even pretending this is a celebration, Casey muttered from the couch, scrolling her phone. It's not like she did it on purpose. Casey, my mom warned, not looking up. Be nice. I was perched in the armchair, fingers laced over my bump, pretending I hadn't heard. I'd gotten good at that, pretending I didn't hear. It was how I'd survived her since middle school. I cleared my throat. I was thinking, I finally picked a name. My mom's head snapped up, eyes bright. You did? Oh, honey, what is it? I smiled, nervous and excited. Amoy! After Grandma. August 25th is her birthday, and the due date is, right there. It feels right. There was this warm beat where my mom's eyes went shiny. Oh, your Lola would love that. Then Casey snorted. You're kidding, she said, looking up from her phone for the first time. You're actually going to do that. Do what? I asked. Steal my name. She said it like it was obvious. You know I was going to name my daughter that. I blinked. What are you talking about? You never told anyone a name. Yes, I did. I told you. After I had the miscarriage. I said if I ever got pregnant again, I was going to name her Amoy and put the date on a blanket. You literally stole my idea. My stomach dropped. I remembered that night. Her curled on the couch, sobbing. my mom holding her while I made tea with shaking hands. I remembered her saying she wanted something to honor what she'd lost, but it had been vague, drifting grief talk, not a claim. I don't remember you saying that exactly, I said, heat creeping up my neck. And it's our grandmother's name. She's my grandmother too. But you're the one who gets everything, so of course you get the name too, she snapped. Can't you call it something else? You could pick, like, Ashley or Kaylee or whatever basic name fits you. Casey, my mom said sharply. Enough. No, let her talk, I said, my voice shaking. Apparently, me existing is already too much for her. Casey's eyes flashed. You've always ruined my life, she said, each word like a slap. Since the day I got here. You copy my style, you steal my boyfriends, you get knocked up first, you even steal my dead baby's name. You ruin everything. Then she threw her phone down, grabbed her keys, and stormed out, the front door slamming so hard the windows rattled. 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A text from her. You've won. You ruin everything. Hope you're happy. I stared at the words until they blurred. My first instinct was to apologize, to figure out how this was my fault. Could I change the name? Was I selfish for wanting to honor my grandma? Maybe I should just go with something else, anything else, to keep the peace. My whole life, that had been my role. The peacekeeper, the quiet one, the one who let things roll off so Casey didn't completely fall apart. And even as my mom tried to take my phone saying, you did nothing wrong, some part of me was already rehearsing how I'd say sorry, because that was the script I'd learned since I was 11. Casey moved into our house when I was in middle school. Before that, it was just me, my parents, and my older sister, Monica. Our little 3-bedroom felt full, but in a good way. Loud music from Monica's room, my dad grilling on the weekends, my mom's Tagalog phone calls with my Lola. Then one night, my aunt showed up with Casey in the back seat of her car, clutching a garbage bag full of clothes and a stuffed bear with one eye. I remember the way my aunt's hands shook when she put a cigarette out in our driveway. She can't stay with him anymore, she told my parents in a hoarse whisper. It's not safe. Please. Just for a little while. Casey was 12, same age as Monica had been when she hit her too cool for siblings phase. I was 11. All elbows and frizzy hair, and graphic tees from Walmart. Casey stepped into our house with her eyeliner already perfect, her hair straightened and shiny, her expression flat like she'd seen everything and cared about nothing. My mom kissed her forehead and made up the pull-out couch in the den. My dad carried in her bag and promised her everything was going to be okay now. They bent over backwards to make her feel safe. Extra desserts, new clothes, soft voices, gentle rules. It made sense. She'd come from something awful. We weren't supposed to ask for details, but we heard enough in whispers. Her dad's temper, the police visits, the bruises she got from soccer. So when she rolled her eyes at my mom and slammed doors and snapped at me, I told myself she was hurting. I told myself I should be patient. But it didn't take long before her hurt had a target. Why do you dress like that? She said one day, flicking the hem of my oversized hoodie. You look like a garbage bag. I laughed like it was a joke. It's comfortable. It's ugly, she said. No wonder you don't have any friends. The thing was, I did have friends. They just started coming over less, because Casey would sit in the living room and stare them down, making little comments until they stopped texting. Do you ever brush your hair? She'd say in the bathroom mirror, standing next to me, running a flat iron over her smooth strands while mine frizzed out. You look like a boy. You know that, right? I started wearing even baggier clothes. If I could disappear under fabric, maybe she'd forget I was there. I'd pull my hoodie sleeves over my hands and hunch my shoulders, shrinking myself down. When I cried to my mom once, she stroked my hair and said, She's been through a lot, sweetie. It's not about you. My dad would just sigh. Don't start with her, he'd murmur. We need to keep things calm for now. She's had it worse. So I learned to swallow it, to take the little cuts and fold them up, hide them somewhere deep. I told myself I was being selfish for feeling hurt when she'd survived something I couldn't even imagine. But then I started to change. By high school, I'd figured out how to do my hair. Monica took me shopping and convinced me to try on jeans that actually fit and tops that didn't swallow me whole. I started wearing colors. I got contacts. People, boys, actually noticed me. Casey noticed too. Wow, she said one morning as I came downstairs in a floral dress my mom had found on clearance. Someone's trying hard, I flushed. I just felt like wearing something different. Yeah, you felt like copying me, she said. You think if you dress like me, you'll suddenly be interesting? Her words stung, but they didn't land the way they used to. Because when I walked into school that day, my friend's eyes lit up. You look so good, one girl said. Another joked, okay, glow up, I see you. And then there was Chris. He was a junior, broad-shouldered and funny, the first boy to actually ask me out instead of just DMing me weird comments. He liked that I wanted to be a nurse, that I volunteered after school, that I wrote little poems in my notebook. He said I was real, which made me feel like I was finally someone worth seeing. Casey saw him too. Why is he here? She asked the first time he came over to study, looking him up and down. She was leaning in the doorway to my room in tiny shorts and a tank top, her hair falling over one shoulder like a shampoo commercial. We're working on a project, I said, my cheeks already hot. She walked right in, sat on my bed, and introduced herself like she owned the place. I'm Casey. I'm basically her sister. Do you play any sports? Chris glanced at me, confused. Football? JV? She giggled, this high, flirty sound. Nice. I love football players. You should come over when we watch games. I'll wear my jersey. When she left, she deliberately brushed against his shoulder. I saw his eyes flick down, just for a second. My stomach twisted. Later, when I told my dad it made me uncomfortable, he rubbed his temples. She's just being friendly, he said. Don't be jealous. You know how she is. Just keep the peace, okay? We don't want any more blow-ups. My mom tried to talk to Casey once about boundaries. I heard their voices through the vent in my room. You can't flirt with her boyfriend, my mom said quietly. It's disrespectful. I flirt with everyone, Casey said. It's not my fault if he looks. We've talked about therapy, my mom said, gentle. It might help. I'm not crazy, Casey snapped. I don't need some stranger telling me what to do. You're just mad your perfect little angel isn't your only project anymore. The door slammed. The conversation ended. The pattern never did. I graduated a year early, not because I was trying to escape her, but because school was the one place I felt like my work actually got rewarded. I loaded up on extra classes, stayed late, did online summer school. When they told me I could walk the stage at 17, my mom cried, and my dad hugged me so hard I squeaked. This girl, he told everyone at the barbecue afterward, arm around my shoulders. First in the family to graduate early. We're so proud. Casey watched from the patio, cigarette between her fingers, lips curled. Must be nice, she muttered. Some of us didn't get private tutors. I'd never had a private tutor in my life. I got a job at a little cafe near the community college and enrolled in pre-nursing classes. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a plan. I liked coming home smelling like coffee and bleach, dropping my tips into the jar on my dresser, watching them grow into something that looked like escape. And then I messed up. His name was Jordan. He was 20, tall, with this lopsided smile and a tendency to call me baby girl in a way that made my cheeks burn. He came into the cafe every day for a month before he finally asked for my number. I knew he wasn't perfect. He worked construction, talked big, had a temper when people cut him off in traffic, but he made me feel wanted. I'd never had that. When my period was late, I told myself it was stress. When the test turned positive, I sat on the edge of the bathtub and forgot how to breathe. Telling my parents was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Until later, when it turned out it wasn't. My mom cried, but she held my hand. My dad went very, very quiet, then asked about my plans. I said I wanted to keep the baby. I said I'd stay in school. I said I'd get more hours at work. I said I was sorry, over and over. They didn't throw me out. They didn't scream. My dad did have to go for a walk around the block for an hour, but when he came back, he hugged me and said, "We'll figure it out." Casey's reaction was different. "Oh my God," she laughed when she overheard my mom on the phone with my aunt. Of course you're the one who gets knocked up first. Attention hog." "It's not. It wasn't on purpose," I stammered. She raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, sure. You accidentally forgot a condom. You're not as innocent as everyone thinks." Within a week, half the extended family knew more about my sex life than I did. "She's been sneaking guys in for years," Casey told our cousins. "You know that, right? She just pretends to be all shy." My aunt called my mom in a panic. "Is it true she doesn't even know who the father is?" I did. It was Jordan. But he'd already started pulling away, missing calls, saying he wasn't ready for all this. He lived 2 towns over and had other priorities, apparently. "You're such a stereotype," Casey told me one night as I folded baby clothes I'd found on sale. "Little teen mom with no baby daddy. You must be so proud." I wanted to hate her. I wanted to scream. But then, 2 months later, she came home with a stick in her hand and tears in her eyes. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. "I'm finally going to have something that's mine." My parents rallied around her like they'd been waiting for this chance to make up for everything she'd lost. Doctor appointments, smoothies. "Don't lift that, Casey. You're pregnant." I tried to be happy for her. I knew how scared I'd been. I knew what it felt like to stare at that second line and feel your whole life rearrange itself. I knew she'd always said she wanted to be a mom, even if she never had a stable relationship or a plan. And then she miscarried at 10 weeks. I heard her sobbing through the walls for days. My mom slept in her room. My dad cooked her favorite foods and left them untouched outside her door. The house felt like a funeral. I lit a candle for her in church, hands shaking. I wrote her a note and slid it under her door. I did her chores without being asked. I swallowed my own nausea and back pain and fear, because it felt wrong to talk about my pregnancy when hers had ended. So when she said she wanted to make a memorial blanket, to put a name and a date on something to honor the baby she'd lost, I nodded until my neck hurt. That's beautiful, I said. Lola would have loved that idea. I never imagined that later, that blanket would become a weapon. The day she unveiled it, I honestly thought it was for her. We were in the living room again, baby shower plans spread out on the coffee table. My mom was debating blue versus pink decorations, even though it doesn't matter. My dad was downstairs pretending to fix the water heater to avoid being dragged into centerpiece debates, and I was folding tiny socks someone had already gifted us. I made something, Casey said suddenly, walking in with a folded bundle of soft fleece. For the baby. I blinked. Oh, okay, thank you. She shook it out with a flourish. It was beautiful, in a way. Soft white fabric with little yellow stars, my grandmother's name embroidered in looping script in the middle, and underneath, born August 25th with the year. My heart stuttered. August 25th was my due date, and my grandmother's birthday, and the date she'd once vaguely mentioned wanting on a blanket for her miscarriage. I thought we could use it at the shower, she said, watching my face. Like a centerpiece. It's what I would have done for my daughter. My mom's smile faltered. Casey, honey, it's really pretty, I said, because it was, and because I'd spent my whole life trying to be grateful for scraps. But that's my baby's name. And birthday, you put it on, like a memorial? So, she snapped, it's my way of being part of it. I told you I wanted that name. You stole it. This is the least you can do. Steal? My voice went up an octave. It's our grandmother's name. I didn't steal anything. You knew, she said, eyes blazing. You knew I wanted that name for my baby, and you just had to take it. You couldn't let me have one thing. My mom set down her pen carefully. Casey, no one owns a name. Of course you're on her side, Casey spat. You always are. Poor, perfect little martyr. She gets pregnant first, she gets the name, she gets the baby shower. What do I get? A dead baby and a stupid blanket. The room went very still. I'm so sorry you lost your baby, I said, my hands shaking. But that doesn't mean I can't name my daughter after my grandma. This isn't about you. Her mouth fell open. Wow, there it is, she said. The real you. You don't even care. You probably got pregnant on purpose just to beat me. Something in me snapped. For the last time, I said, my voice low. I did not get pregnant to hurt you. Not everything is about you. My entire life has been about making sure you don't feel left out, or upset, or triggered, or whatever. I'm done. She took a step toward me. You're done? You're done? You think you get to be done when I had to leave my own father's house because of what he did to me? You think you get to be done when you ruined my life? Enough, my mom said sharply, standing. Both of you. Your dad is downstairs. Oh, let's bring him into it, Casey sneered. She took a deep breath and yelled, Dad, your favorite daughter is bullying me again. My dad's footsteps thudded on the stairs. He came up wiping his hands on a rag, his face already tense. What's going on? She's stealing my baby's name, Casey said, tears springing to her eyes instantly. And now she's saying my miscarriage doesn't matter. I never said that, I protested. I just said, you said this wasn't about me, she cried. You're erasing my daughter. You're using her name and date like she never existed. My dad looked between us, eyes pinched. This was the moment I always dreaded. The triangle, where he had to pick a side. For years, he'd chosen the path of least resistance, which usually meant smoothing Casey's feathers and telling me to be the bigger person. But this time, something in his face changed. He looked at the blanket. He looked at me, my hands on my belly. He looked at Casey, perfectly ready to cry on command. And he lost it. Casey, he said, voice shaking. You need to stop, right now. She blinked, thrown off. What? You need to stop acting like you're the only person in this house who has ever been hurt, he said louder. You need to stop bullying her every time something doesn't go your way. I'd never heard him talk to her like that. My mom's eyes went wide. Casey actually took a step back. Dad, No, he cut in. You have lived in this house, rent-free, for 6 years. We have given you everything we can. We helped you when you had nowhere to go. We loved you like our own. And all you have done is take and take and take, and then turn around and spit on us when you don't get exactly what you want. Her face crumpled. You're taking her side? I'm not taking sides, he said, but he looked at me when he said it. I'm telling you that this ends now. If you can't live here without attacking her, you can't live here, period. The room went silent. Are you kicking me out? She whispered. I'm saying you have a choice, he said, each word measured. You can stay here, and we will help you, and we will support you, but you will treat everyone in this house with respect. You will apologize to her. You will go to therapy like your mother has begged you to. Or you can leave. She stared at him like he'd slapped her. You're choosing her over me, she said, tears spilling now. You're choosing your real daughter over your charity case. That's not what I said, he started, but she was already moving. Fine, she spat. Fine, you've won. You ruin everything. She threw over her shoulder at me as she stormed to her room. The next sound was drawers slamming, hangers clattering. 10 minutes later, she came out with a duffel bag, shoulders squared. You'll regret this, she told my dad. When she turns on you too. You'll see. She left. That night, she texted me again. You've won. You always win. You and your stupid baby. I hope you're happy. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling like the floor had dropped out from under our entire family. My dad had finally drawn a line, and I was the reason. So I did what you do when you don't trust your own reality anymore. I went to Reddit. I made a throwaway account and typed it all out. The name drama, the blanket, the blow-up. I couldn't fit our entire history in one post, but I included enough context that strangers could see the pattern I'd spent my adolescence trying to pretend wasn't there. Am I the asshole for stealing my cousin's baby name and causing her to get kicked out? I typed, then hovered over post for a full minute before hitting send. The responses came fast, a flood of little red notifications. NTA. Most of them said, not the asshole, over and over. Your cousin has main character syndrome. She's weaponizing her trauma to control you. This isn't about a name. This is about years of jealousy and your parents enabling her. Please protect yourself and your baby. That girl sounds unstable. One comment stuck in my head. Just because someone has been abused doesn't give them a free pass to abuse others. I'd never seen it put that way, so blunt. I'd spent years telling myself that my hurt didn't count because hers was bigger, because she had scars I couldn't see, because my dad had made mistakes when he was drinking and was trying to fix them by saving everyone else. Reading strangers tell me that what I'd experienced was actually messed up, that my fear and exhaustion were valid, felt like finally getting a second opinion after a lifetime with one shady doctor. They also said things I didn't want to hear. Your dad needs therapy. You need therapy. Lock your door. She sounds dangerous. Go low contact or no contact. She will escalate. I didn't want to believe that last part, but then a week later, with my door shaking in its frame and her slurred voice oozing under the crack, I realized the internet had seen her more clearly than I had. Back at the door, my dad's shadow filled the hallway. Get away from the door, he said again. I'd never heard his voice like that, not even when he used to drink. It had this cold, steady rage in it that made my skin prickle. I just wanted to talk to her, Casey whined. She's the one recording me, like I'm some criminal. You were trying to kick down a locked door on a pregnant girl in the middle of the night, he said. What do you think that looks like? I could hear my mom now, hovering behind him. Casey, sweetheart, you've been drinking. We can smell it. This isn't okay. Oh, so now I'm the drunk, she snapped. What about him? She jabbed a finger at my dad. I could see their shadows. He used to drink all the time, but when I do it, I'm the problem? My dad was quiet for a beat. When he spoke, his voice shook. I know exactly what it looks like when someone lets alcohol turn them into a monster, he said. I spent half my life being that person. I will not watch you become that in my house. Your house, she repeated bitter. Right? Thanks for the reminder. Casey, my mom pleaded. Please, go lie down. We'll talk in the morning. There's nothing to talk about, she said. She's already poisoned you all against me. The little mixed princess and her miracle baby. That word again, mixed, like it was dirty. Like my black boyfriend's DNA had somehow contaminated the family line. Something in my dad snapped. Don't you dare talk about my granddaughter like that, he thundered. I don't care how drunk you are. I don't care how hurt you are. You do not get to stand outside her door and spew that filth. I flinched at the word filth, even though it wasn't directed at me. Old habits. Maybe if you hadn't adopted every stray that crossed your path, you wouldn't be in this mess, she spat. Maybe if you just focused on your real family, instead of trying to fix every broken girl you found, you wouldn't have such a... Enough, he cut in. Pack your bags. The silence was deafening. What? She said, her voice suddenly small. Pack your bags, he repeated. You are not sleeping under this roof tonight. You can come back tomorrow, sober, if you are ready to apologize and agree to go to therapy. If not, you can find somewhere else to stay. You're kicking me out, she said again. Like if she said it enough times, it would turn into a question he'd answer differently. I am protecting my child and my grandchild, he said. I should have done it years ago. My mom gasped softly. I heard her whisper his name, but she didn't disagree. You're choosing her, Casey choked. You're choosing her over me, after everything I've been through. I'm choosing safety, he said. I'm choosing sanity. And if you can't handle that, then yes, I am choosing her. The footsteps moved away from my door. I heard drawers opening, bags being yanked. My hands were still shaking. The baby had settled, as if sensing that the storm was moving down the hall. My phone buzzed. A text from Monica. You happy now? It read. You got what you wanted. You always do. I stared at it, my throat closing. Another one pinged in. You love playing the victim, don't you? Poor you. Everyone's so mean to you. Maybe look at how you treat Casey before you act like she's crazy. My vision blurred. I slid up against the side of the bed, pulled my knees up as much as my belly would allow, and typed back with fingers that barely felt real. Are you serious? I wrote. I have bent over backwards my entire life not to upset her. I've let her insult me, flirt with my boyfriends, spread lies about me, make my pregnancy about her. She just tried to kick my door down at 1 a.m., while drunk, screaming racist crap about my baby. And you're mad at me? Typing it out like that, in one long, furious sentence, made something click in my brain. Seeing the words on the screen, drunk, door, 1 a.m., so racist, made it impossible to keep minimizing it. Another bubble appeared. She's hurting, Monica wrote. You don't know what it's like to grow up like she did. You're safe. You've always been safe. You can't handle a few harsh words? A few harsh words. I thought about the years of picking myself apart in the mirror because of those few harsh words. The boyfriends I'd watched gravitate toward her. The way I'd learned to tiptoe around my own house. I'm done, I typed. I am done making myself small so she can feel big. If you can't see how toxic this is, that's on you. But she is not coming near me or my child until she gets serious help. And if you want to choose her, that's your choice. I'm not chasing either of you anymore. I hit send before I could soften it. No reply. Down the hall, the front door opened and closed. A car engine started. The house settled into this heavy, exhausted quiet. My dad knocked on my door, gentle this time. Baby, he called. Can I come in? I unlocked it and climbed back on the bed. He came in with my mom behind him, both of them looking older than they had that morning. We saw the video, he said, voice thick. I'm so sorry I didn't listen sooner. My mom sat on the edge of the bed and put her hand on my belly. You don't have to see them if you don't want to, she said. We will back you up. For the first time in years, I believed her. The next morning, Casey sent a flurry of texts to my parents. Long paragraphs about how unfair they were being, how she had nowhere to go, how she was just drunk and didn't mean it, how I'd provoked her by locking my door and acting scared. My dad replied once, We love you. We will help you find a therapist and work through this. But you cannot live here unless you are in treatment and respecting everyone's boundaries. Our offer stands. She left him on read. I didn't text her at all. Instead, I opened the baby shower group chat and typed, Hey guys, quick update. Casey and Monica won't be at the shower. Please don't invite them or share details with them. Long story, but for my and the baby's safety, they're not involved right now. My fingers hovered over my sister's name in my contacts. I thought about sending her a separate message, one last olive branch. But then I pictured her text from the night before, the way she'd reduced everything to a few harsh words, and I put my phone down. My dad, meanwhile, called Monica. I saw what you texted your sister, he said, later relaying the conversation to me and my mom at the kitchen table. If you think we're abusing Casey by asking her to get help, you're welcome to move in with her. He'd never said anything like that to her before. Monica, the golden child, the one who'd always kept herself above the drama by pretending she didn't see it. She said we were choosing sides, he told us, rubbing his temples. I told her, sometimes choosing sanity looks like choosing sides. Monica didn't come home that night, or the next. By the end of the week, she'd moved in with Casey. The baby shower, when it finally came, felt like stepping into a parallel universe where my life had gone right from the start. We strung fairy lights across the backyard. My mom cooked enough food to feed a small army. My girlfriends from school came early to help set up the folding tables and hang little paper clouds with raindrop-shaped confetti. There was laughter, actual easy laughter. No one was scanning the door, waiting for a storm to blow in. My boyfriend, now my fiancé, after he got down on one knee in our living room 2 weeks earlier with a ring he'd saved up for during his National Guard training, hovered nearby, making sure I didn't lift anything heavier than a plastic cup. You look beautiful, he whispered as he helped me settle into a lawn chair. I can't believe we're this close. I smoothed my dress over my belly, where my daughter rolled lazily, as if lulled by the noise. Me either, I said. I keep expecting someone to wake me up and tell me I'm still 15 and hiding in hoodies. My dad manned the grill, humming off-key to old rock songs. Every time someone complimented the decorations, my mom beamed like she'd personally invented Pinterest. There were no snide comments about my age. No eye rolls when people called me mama. No one making a passive-aggressive toast about second chances or wasted potential. No Casey, no Monica. They existed on the periphery now, like ghosts you'd occasionally hear about through the family grapevine. Did you hear they got an apartment together? My aunt whispered to my mom near the punch bowl. 2 bedrooms. They're so excited. That's good, my mom said, voice carefully neutral. I hope it works out for them. I caught snippets of gossip throughout the afternoon. Casey had a part-time job at a bar. Monica was doing nails out of their living room. They decorated the place with thrift store finds and dollar store art, telling everyone they were finally free of all the drama. I could have rolled my eyes. I could have pointed out the irony. But sitting there under the fairy lights, my parents laughing with my friends, my fiancé's hand resting warm on my knee, I just felt light. For once, my life wasn't a stage for someone else's performance. It was just mine. From what I've heard since, their fresh start wasn't as glossy as their Instagram made it seem. They posted pictures of sister dinners with boxed wine and overcooked pasta, of self-care Sundays with face masks they'd gotten on clearance. They tagged themselves at clubs, in front of murals, at girls' nights with people I'd never met. Behind the filters, though, things were rough. They both struggled to keep steady work. Casey would get hired at a bar, charm everyone for a month, then blow up at a manager and storm out. Monica's clients complained about her being late or flaking. Rent notices piled up. The electricity got cut off once. They asked my aunt for money. She sent what she could, but she had her own bills. They're always fighting, my cousin told me at a family barbecue months later. Like screaming at each other through the walls. Each one blaming the other for everything. It's a lot. Do they ever ask about me? I asked before I could stop myself. My cousin hesitated. Casey says you think you're better than them now, she admitted. Monica just rolls her eyes. They talk a lot of crap, but they also, I don't know, they seem lost. I nodded, something tight in my chest. It wasn't satisfaction exactly. It wasn't pity either. It was more like this quiet affirmation that I hadn't been crazy, that the chaos hadn't followed me when I left. It had followed them. I didn't reach out. I didn't send screenshots of late notices or snarky comments. I didn't gloat. I changed diapers and wrote papers and learned how to swaddle. And on August 25th, I gave my daughter the name that had started the final unraveling. Labor started at 3 a.m., of course. My water broke in a very unglamorous gush that sent me scrambling out of bed, cursing and laughing at the same time. My mom drove us to the hospital in the dark, clutching the steering wheel like she could steer me away from every possible complication. My fiancé sat in the back seat with me, rubbing my back through each contraction, whispering, "You've got this, you've got this," like a mantra. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and coffee. The lights were too bright. The nurses were kind and brisk, asking me a million questions while I tried not to bite through my own lip. Hours blurred. My world shrank to the rise and fall of pain. The beep of the monitor, my mom's hand in mine, my fiancé's voice in my ear. At one point, between contractions, I looked at the clock. 2:10 p.m., August 25th. My grandmother's birthday, my due date. The date that had been stitched on a blanket and weaponized and argued over and cried about. "Hi, Lola," I whispered in my head. "If you're listening, I hope I'm doing this right." When the final push came, I felt like I split in two. Then there was this sudden, shocking emptiness and a wail that cut straight through every scar I'd ever carried. They put her on my chest, vernix and all, warm and slippery and furious at being evicted. The world went quiet. She was so small. Dark curls plastered to her head, fists balled up, mouth opened in a perfect O as she screamed her protest. "Hi, baby," I sobbed, every part of me shaking. "Hi, Emoy." My mom covered her mouth, tears spilling down her face. "She looks like you," she whispered. My dad, who'd sworn he wouldn't cry, had to take his glasses off and wipe his eyes. My fiancé kissed my forehead, his own cheeks wet. "You did it," he said. "You did it." In that moment, there was no Casey, no Monica, no stolen names or ruined lives or door kicking or drunken slurs. There was just me and this tiny human who didn't know any of that yet, whose whole world was my heartbeat and the sound of my voice. I thought about all the times I'd shrunk myself to make other people comfortable, all the times I'd swallowed my pain because someone else's seemed bigger, all the times I'd let people tell me who I was. Looking down at her, I knew I couldn't do that anymore. Not if I wanted her to grow up in a different story. The years since then have been a blur of bottles and textbooks and late-night FaceTimes with my fiancé when he was deployed. We moved into a little two-bedroom apartment a few months after she was born. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. I painted one wall in the nursery a soft yellow and hung up photos of my grandmother, my parents, our little new family. My fiancé proposed officially at our belated engagement party, kneeling on a sticky bar floor with a ring that sparkled more than I thought we could afford. "I want to build a life with you," he said, voice shaking. "For you and for her." We got married at the courthouse, then had a barbecue in my parents' backyard. My dad walked me up the 3 steps to the judge's office, his hand steady on my elbow. My mom pinned a tiny fabric flower in my hair, the same color as the dress she'd worn when she married him. Between feedings and work shifts, I chipped away at nursing school. I studied pharmacology while Amoy napped on my chest. I answered discussion board posts with one hand while bouncing her with the other. Somewhere in there, I started a little side business, customized baby blankets, of all things. It was my mom's idea, ironically. "You're so good with a sewing machine," she said. "You could make some extra money." I hesitated at first. Blankets had become such a loaded symbol in our family. But then I thought, maybe I could reclaim that too. I made bright, joyful designs, rainbows, forests, space themes. I stitched names and birthdays in careful loops, each one a little blessing. Orders trickled in from friends, then strangers on Etsy. The extra income helped cover diapers and textbooks. The act of making something soft and warm for other people's babies felt healing in a way I hadn't expected. My fiancé's military schedule meant he was gone more than we liked. There were nights when the loneliness pressed in, when I'd rock Amoy to sleep and stare at the door, muscles tensing at every creak, Old fear still wired into my nervous system, but the door never shook. No one ever tried to break it down. The only pounding was little toddler fists when she learned how to knock and thought it was hilarious. My parents, now Lolo and Lola, reveled in their grandparent roles. My mom babysat during my clinical rotations, sending me a stream of photos. Amoy eating rice with her hands, Amoy helping in the garden, Amoy asleep with her face squished against my mom's arm. My dad built her a little playhouse in their backyard. Every girl deserves a safe place to play, he said, hammering nails with more care than I'd ever seen him use on anything. He also started going to therapy, quietly at first, through a program for recovering alcoholics. One night, sitting at their kitchen table after a particularly hard day at the hospital, he said, "I should have gone years ago. I'm sorry I let things get as bad as they did." We didn't talk about Casey and Monica much. When we did, it was in careful, measured tones. "They're still together," my aunt would say occasionally. "Still figuring it out." I stalked their social media less and less. The urge to check, to compare, to brace myself for whatever narrative they were spinning about me, faded. My story was busy enough without theirs. Sometimes, late at night, after Amoy is finally down and the apartment is quiet, I lie in bed and think about the question that started all of this. Am I the asshole for ruining my cousin's life? It's funny, in a way, how much power she gave me in that sentence. Like I had the ability to orchestrate her entire existence just by breathing. By her logic, my crimes were existing, being loved by my parents, dressing in a way that made me feel good, having a boyfriend, graduating, getting pregnant, choosing a name, saying no, locking my door, choosing peace over chaos. If that's what ruining her life looks like, then yes, I am guilty. I ruined her version of the story where I am always the villain and she is always the tragic heroine. I ruined the script where I apologize for taking up space. I ruined the expectation that I will sacrifice my safety and my child's for her comfort. What I didn't ruin, and what I've finally accepted I can't fix, is whatever happened to her before she came to us. The part of her that learned love was a competition, that attention was oxygen, that control was the only way to feel safe. I feel for that girl, I always will, but I won't let her burn down my house to keep herself warm. These days, our lives run on different tracks. I hear bits and pieces through relatives. They're still in that apartment, or maybe a new one. They're still hustling, still fighting, still refusing therapy. I keep my boundaries. No visits, no calls, no social media contact. If they ever decide to get real help, to actually take responsibility instead of rewriting history, I'll reconsider what contact could look like. Not for their sake, but for mine, and for my daughter's. Because when I look at Amoy now, 4 years old, curls bouncing as she runs through the park, shrieking with laughter, the only promise I can make with absolute certainty is this. I will not raise her to believe that love means walking on eggshells. She will not learn that family is an excuse for abuse. She will not think she has to make herself smaller to fit in someone else's shadow. She will know that her boundaries matter, that her no is a complete sentence, that she is allowed to choose peace. Sometimes, when she's asleep, I trace the letters of her name on her back, the same name that sparked so much ugliness, a name that belonged to a woman who crossed an ocean for a better life, who raised my mom with tough love and softer hands than she liked to admit. Amoy, I whisper, you come from strong women, you come from survivors, but you don't have to bleed to prove it. I used to think my life was defined by what I survived, by the doors that rattled, the insults that landed, the tears I swallowed. Now, I measure it by different things. The quiet at 1 a.m., the sound of my daughter's even breathing from her room, the knowledge that if someone ever tries to kick down her door, literally or metaphorically, I will be on the other side, phone in one hand, boundary in the other, unshakable. If that makes me the villain in someone else's story, so be it. In mine, I finally get to be the main character.